to join the cables. So we have the cables here that the temperature probes are connected to. The red tape being the one that goes to the primary temperature probe. That's the one that's down at bird height. And we've got the two pairs of wires, the orange, orange-white, orange, orange-white. So we get the cable that comes from the cable drum that goes back to the controller unit. First thing we'll do is just going to take off a piece of the outer sheath with a knife. So, and you'll have to figure out how much pressure you use. All you want to do is just carefully go through the outer sheath without going any deeper into the actual conductors inside themselves, because you can potentially nick the copper and it becomes brittle and will break when bent. And we're going to want to bend it. You'll get to a point where that will just come off. So what we're looking for is taking out the two pairs, the orange pair and the blue pair. The other two pair, they can actually be cut off. Out of the way. So we'll just straighten these out. Now the orange pair is for the main probe. So we'll splice that one first. So we've got the red and the orange will be for the primary, the main probe. So what I'll do for this one, we'll line these two up, and it's best to do this outside where you've got plenty of daylight and it's easier to see things. So I've got the two yellows, two oranges close to each other. There's no yellows around here. I'll just put the splicing connector on. You should be able to see the wires go all the way to the end. So you need to check that the wires go all the way to the end of it. Then grab a pair of pliers onto the connector. I'll hold it that way. And then just squeeze it closed. And then you can check that by just gently giving it a pull. And there we have the orange to orange. Now, to be honest, it doesn't actually matter which way around these wires go. You could have the orange to the white and the white to the orange. There's no problem with that. So, second connector. Get these wires lined up best we can, because in doing that, it just makes it so much easier when you go to place the connector on. So the connector on, pushing it till you can see at the back of it where the wires go all the way to the end. And then again, pliers on the end. They're just checking again that it hasn't moved, that the wires are all the way through to the end, and crimping it closed. Giving it a quick check. And this is where you can often find that if you've nicked the cable, that's where it will break. Then it becomes a bit frustrating because you've got to go back down the cable to get some clean cable. So that's those ones out of the way. So that's the one probe connected. Now the second probe. So blue is for the second probe. The blue pair is the one that goes back to the controller, and we're connecting it to the orange of the second probe. The second probe is on the short lead and is the one that goes up at the top of the shed. So same deal, pushing that on so the connectors go all the way to the end. Crimp it closed. White ones. And you'll figure out very quickly, the straighter you can get these wires, and the checking that the ends are the same length, the easier it is to get this connector on and see that it goes all the way to the end. Closed, and often when you see it closed, you'll see the gel actually start to squeeze out and down part of the cable. Again, we're checking that, yep, that's all good. So now there's two things you can do from here. One is you can actually have the three cables all together like this, and then cable tie around that for some mechanical strength. Hey, we have a problem here. Look at this. One of these wires has come out. Oh, good exercise. We're lucky here. So this is on the main, on the primary, the wire has come out of the connector. So potentially I didn't do what I said you should do, and that's check it, make sure it went all the way to the end. So I'm going to cut this connector off, and so I don't lose too much of the cable, I just cut it at the connector. Now it could have been that I didn't have that cable really nice and straight. Just as well I gave you a few spares. So putting that back in, I can now see it does go all the way to the end. Double check that as I push them in. Close it up, and this time, got it. So going back to the point that you can cable tie it here for the physical strain relief around it, and then run the insulation tape up to capture and encapsulate all these connectors. So while these are all waterproof, it's all sealed, the going tape around it will give it some mechanical strength too. The other option, if you put it through a junction box, you can take the cable around that way, and you can carefully move one connector one way, another connector another way, one connector one way, another connector another way, so we've got two each way. The issue here is that there's no physical strain relief between the two. So sometimes what you can do, I'll take all these connectors out the same way. If you've had enough length in the cable, you can push the two ends past each other and then cable tie through there, and then again quietly, when I say quietly, you know what I mean, you do it quietly to make sure you don't break the cables, and then tape all that up. So then it's physically restrained when you try and pull it that way, as well as electrically connected. For this, I would probably suggest, if you could, for the sake of reliability in the connections and that not wanting to bend this cabling or move it as little as possible, actually having them as a pile like that is probably going to be okay. This bunch is going to be up at the apex of the roof, so it's going to be well out of the way, and you should be able to find, possibly even before you tape it up, that you can slide that inside one of the cable connector boxes that is there. And if you can get that in there nice and easily, even if you put some cable ties down lower, then by the time you just tape that up, you should still be able to slide to fit it in there, which gives it a bit of dust and moisture protection, while this is all still electrically connected and really secure. And that's all there is to it.